marveled little genius. "Good morning, Jarvis! It's a sunny and beautiful day," said the black-haired, black-eyed teenager as he groggily ran a hand through his messy, unkempt hair. "Good morning, Master Mark. The weather is pleasant today with a temperature of 28 degrees Celsius and a light southeast breeze, ideal for going out," replied the smart housekeeper's cheerful voice, resonating throughout the technologically advanced villa on Marbury Coast. This morning exchange had become a habit for Mark Stark, one he had developed from a young age. He vividly remembered Edwin Jarvis, the old butler who had once taken care of him. As a toddler barely able to form words, Mark would struggle to return Jarvis's daily greeting of, "Good morning, Master Mark." The butler, in turn, would lovingly care for him, feeding, bathing, and even changing his diapers. Even after Edwin Jarvis passed away, Mark continued the tradition. In honor of the faithful butler who had served 3 generations of the Stark family, Mark's father, the eccentric Tony Stark, named his newly developed AI assistant Jarvis. Thus, the habit lived on, now shared with the artificial intelligence managing their high-tech home. Mark Stark's story, however, extends far beyond this morning ritual. He isn't just any teenager. He's the illegitimate son of the brilliant, patriotic, and famously hedonistic Tony Stark. Born to Lilina, a Chinese reporter from New York TV, Mark's existence was the result of one fateful interview. Tony's charm and wit led to a fleeting encounter, one that left Lina pregnant. Independent and strong-willed, Lina decided to keep and raise the child on her own, naming him Mark Lee. To avoid family judgment and societal scrutiny, she left New York, concealed her pregnancy, and quietly started a new life. But fate was cruel. Shortly after Mark's birth, Lina received devastating news. Her parents had been killed during a clash involving a mysterious group of individuals. Overwhelmed by grief and postpartum hormonal changes, Lina succumbed to severe depression, an illness scarcely understood in 1996. Tragically, Lina's struggle ended with her choosing to leave the world behind. Before her passing, she entrusted Mark to a close friend, who delivered the infant to Tony Stark. Initially skeptical, Tony only accepted the child after a DNA test confirmed their relation. Reluctant to alter his lifestyle, Tony entrusted Mark's care to the loyal Edwin Jarvis. For years, Mark grew up under Jarvis's guidance, with minimal involvement from his father. Surprisingly, this arrangement suited Mark just fine. Despite his youthful appearance, Mark's mind harbored the experiences of an adult. His current life was not his first. Mark was a reincarnated soul. In his past life, he had been Ma Minka, a Chinese orphan raised by the state. Hardworking and determined, Ma Minka had overcome adversity, earning a spot at a prestigious university with a national scholarship. His future had seemed bright until fate intervened. One fateful train ride to the capital ended with him waking up as a baby, held in the arms of an unfamiliar Asian woman. Confused and disoriented, his only thought was, "What the hell just happened?" Now, in his new life as Mark Stark, the 14-year-old stands 1.72 meters tall, carrying the legacy of 2 vastly different worlds: Tony Stark's genius and his mother's resilience. Though his journey began with hardship, Mark's unique perspective and sharp mind promise an extraordinary future ahead. Mark, who was held by Lilina in his arms, had not been able to vent the grief in his heart, and he had no time to take a good look at his new environment. A huge flow of information occupied all the available thinking space in the brain and fell into a kind of in a muddy state. Definitely, in the eyes of others, this is what a newborn baby should look like. Mark spent his first year in the new world in this state of chaos, until he completely absorbed the huge flow of information and integrated. His biological mother Lilina was already suffering and entrusted it to a friend. Ready to end your own life. At the moment, Mark did not know that his mother was about to leave him forever. After absorbing the huge flow of information, Mark not only forgot the unhappiness of rebirth, but also forgot his curiosity about the new world. He was stunned by the amazing content of the information flow he integrated. According to the content at the beginning of the information stream, he knew the reason for his rebirth. One of the god's heirs was playful and rewrote Mark's fate, while his parents didn't pay attention, causing him to suddenly die on the journey to the capital. In order to make up for his negligence, the gods randomly put Mark's soul into a world with similar history and culture, and allowed him to retain the memory of his previous life and reincarnate. At the same time, as compensation, he randomly grabbed a piece of memory information of a person with great luck in the heavens and all realms, and injected it into his brain. After Mark accepts this piece of memory information, it also means that the cause and effect between him and the gods are completely ended. From now on, he will be a resident of this world, and the gods will erase the information about himself in his memory. According to the description of the gods, receiving this information stream will not only allow Mark's brain to be developed in advance, and improve his intelligence and memory. As the body develops in the future, the brain can be further improved during secondary development. And the reason why Mark was so surprised after accepting this information flow was not because of the development of the brain in the process of absorbing and integrating, but because the content he obtained from it told him that he knew this person with great luck, or said he knew the identity of this person. Hamada Hiroshi. But maybe many people don't match the name when it comes to this name. But if you talk about the heroine of the Big Hero 6, everyone should know who it is. He is the male protagonist in an animated film, Big Hero 6, jointly produced by Disney and Marvel, who Mark had seen in his previous life. The man who invented the magnetic robot transformed his personal health consultant Dubai into a combat robot, and several other members of the team developed numerous high-tech weapons and equipment together, and a mechanical prodigy with a genius mind, Ahone. During this year, Mark not only digested and absorbed all of Ahone's memories, but also learned the profound mechanical knowledge. More importantly, he learned how Ahone learns and thinks as a genius. With this, coupled with his highly developed brain, whether Mark learns new knowledge in other areas or encounters new difficulties in the future, he can overcome them one by one through his hardworking personality. Originally, in the original world, Mark himself was an orphan, unattached and unattached. Being reborn once now is equivalent to another 10 years of lifespan, and regardless of his birth in this life, he has already acquired the knowledge and abilities that are sufficient to change his future, so he quickly accepted the fact that he had gone through rebirth. If he didn't see the next man, this carefree happy time of accepting reality should have been longer. Because he never dreamed that his biological father would be the famous Tony Stark. Master Tianshan, no matter how random you are, don't choose the terrifying Marvel world. Although he knew this fact at first, Mark still complained a bit. But as the saying goes, life is like that. Since you can't resist, you can only enjoy it calmly. After figuring this out, after all, it is 23 years before the snap that wiped out half of the life in the universe, and Mark started his childhood with peace of mind. It should be said that Mark's childhood was very happy. He was accompanied by the old housekeeper Edwin Jarvis during his infantry, warm and fulfilling. After I became a teenager, I took out the advanced mechanical technology in my mind to practice every day, and I felt full of accomplishment. From time to time, he will also look through the books and design drafts left by his grandfather Howard Stark and his father Tony Stark, allowing him to gain a lot of new knowledge, and the mutual confirmation of the knowledge in his mind, and he is full of rewards. Although he lost his mother, he had an unreliable father, so that even if he was born again, he did not experience the greatness of his father's love and mother's love. But this is all flaws, and I am used to it in my previous life, and my life is unsatisfactory, so how can there be no regrets? Not to mention that Mark has been very happy otherwise. 13 years have passed so plainly, and the time has come to April 2010. As always, after battling Jarvis Roar, Mark went to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator and took out a box of cereal and a bottle of milk, ready to solve his breakfast problem. At this time, the voice of the smart housekeeper Jarvis reminded, "Master Mark, since you didn't go to bed until nearly 2 o'clock last night, I suggest that you don't eat the frozen food that you just took out of the refrigerator. You should put it in a milk warmer after heating it up. Eat again." "Thank you for your concern, Jarvis. I listened to you." Mark, who was about to mix ice milk with oatmeal, stopped and followed Jarvis's advice and put the milk in the milk warmer. You know, Jarvis, my development of Dubai has reached a critical stage. As long as the medical chip is completed, Dubai will narrow the gap in medical resources around the world, so that countries and regions that are economically and culturally backward can also enjoy it. The top medical diagnosis. I wish you an early success, Master Mark. Thank you, Jarvis. Mark's recent practical project is to restore the soft and cute personal health consultant in his memory. Although Dubai is not Ahong's invention, the technical difficulty of restoring Dubai's original is not high, and the key points can be found in Ahong's memory. The most important thing is the medical chip. To accurately determine the emotions of people from different regions and ethnicities, and to accurately diagnose the disease of each patient, the programming logic and underlying data required for it are extremely difficult to write. Mark has now completed the production of the chip, and what was done last night was the final checksum pair. In the high-performance computer in his room, the progress of at the moment's verification has reached 45%, which means that if it goes well, Mark will be able to successfully reproduce Dubai in this world this evening. In the evening, as the sun sets, Marbury's long coastline is also covered with a layer of red tulle. After Tony left the company, he returned home alone today. Getting out of the car, Happy, the driver and bodyguard, drove the car into the underground garage, and Tony came to the door of the villa. Welcome back, sir. There is no need to use the key, nor does it need to actively perform biometric identification. The smart housekeeper of the villa, Jarvis, has actively opened the door. As soon as he walked in, Tony saw the red suitcase in the living room that was obviously not part of the decoration of the villa. The box is only 20 inches file size, and a long power cord is connected to the back, which is plugged into the wall socket. Jarvis, what is this? Seeing suspicious items in his home that he hadn't seen before, Tony asked Jarvis for the first time. Sir, this is the result of the research recently completed by Master Mark. Oh? What new stuff did this kid come up with? Where are the others? Master Mark stayed up late last night until 2 in the morning. He has been perfecting his new design at noon today, and he is still resting in bed. Yeah. After asking for his father's responsibility, Tony didn't ask too much. In fact, his childhood and Mark can be said to be very similar. Without the company of his father, he was immersed in the exploration of mechanical knowledge since he was a child. So now, even if he becomes a father, he doesn't know how to fulfill the responsibilities of a father, and how to show his paternal love. Coupled with the fascination with flowers and wine, Tony is really a completely failed father, but he didn't realize it himself. What he cares most about now is the red box in front of him. Although the father and son don't communicate much at ordinary times, because they are both mechanical geniuses, showing each other their first research results has become the most tacit understanding between the two. Ways of communication. Tony approached this new invention that hadn't seen any use yet, and was driven by curiosity to reach out and touch it. With this touch, the metallic red suitcase began to change. A round LED light in the middle gave off a soft yellowish light, and a lid on the upper part of the suitcase opened immediately. Hiss. Under the gas supply of the air pump in the box, the large piece of white fiber fabric inside the box quickly expanded in volume, and finally turned into a chubby inflatable robot. This huge amounts of white inflatable robot has rounded lines and a single expression. The huge amounts of belly with 2 short legs looks like an oversized piece of cotton candy. Then, in Tony's surprised gaze, the big guy who looked soft and cute, swayed in front of him, raised his chubby right hand, and beckoned. Hello, I am Dubai, your personal health assistant. I realize that you need medical care. Do you want to start medical treatment now? Hearing Dubai's question, Tony just nodded sluggishly. The inflatable intelligent robot idea is really great. If Mark is in front of him now, he can't help but praise this genius idea with his poisonous tongue. With a pure white appearance, coupled with an approachable shape design, this medical robot has scored 59% in Tony's eyes, and the remaining 41% depends on its diagnosis and treatment methods. Whether it is convenient, and whether the diagnosis result is accurate. Your health assistant will diagnose for you. I will scan you. The scan is complete. Wow, the hyperspectral lens, the idea is good. Now I have a 60% pass score, so what about the result? The analysis is over. The information Dabai will scan from Tony's body, through the comparison of his own database, and the analysis of the microcomputer, uses the projection device in the body to display it on the white and big belly. Master, according to my diagnosis, you are in a serious sub-health state and have slight shoulder and neck problems. At the same time, according to the theory of Chinese medicine, your symptoms are in line with the manifestations of kidney deficiency. It is recommended that you strengthen physical exercises and use it with wolfberry tea. Treatment. 0 points, 0 points, 0 points. When Dabai uttered the word kidney deficiency, its score in Tony's mind was completely cleared. I'm the Yakujuru of Yiyushu girl, how dare you say me? Kidney deficiency, this is a misdiagnosis. Master, according to your description, Dabai diagnosed that this is due to excessive indulgence caused by kidney deficiency. It is recommended that you reasonably control the frequency of intercourse and do more outdoor activities that are conducive to physical and mental health. I'm so angry! Dabai's response made Tony furious, and his roar also woke up Mark, who was resting in the room. What's the matter, Daddy? Why did you come back so early? There is no woman by your side, and your kidney is weak. Mark, who had just woke up, had not figured out the situation, so he made a knife in Tony's heart. Nonsense, bullshit, how could I have a kidney deficiency and I'm in good health? I am going home early tomorrow morning because I am going to show the latest weapons of Stark Industries for the military early in the morning. Your invention is not good, and the result of the diagnosis is not accurate at all. How is it possible? Tony's words to save himself made Mark immediately wake up from a half-dream and half-awake state. You are a hard-headed mouth, let me show you the experiment. After that, Mark ran into the room again, took out a roll of tape, stood beside Tony and pulled out a piece of tape. Quickly pulled it off. Oh! The irritation of the hair loss made Tony yell. Why, it hurts me so much. Mark didn't speak, but just looked at Dabai in front of him, waiting for something. Master, I noticed that you have sent a pain signal, indicating that you need medical care. Please use 1 to 10 levels to indicate your pain level. At this time, a new picture was projected on the big white belly again, showing emoji expressions of different pain levels. Physiological or psychological pain? Tony decided to embarrass this big guy in order to protect his name. Now I will scan you. Tony refused to cooperate. Dabai activated the hyperspectral lens again. The scan is complete. You have mild epidermal abrasions on your forearms. Antibacterial spray is recommended. What are the specific ingredients in the spray? Tony is now like a passenger on the plane who is not looking for trouble, trying his best to behave. The main ingredient is bacitracin. Unfortunately, I am allergic to this thing. According to the analysis, you are not allergic to bacitracin, but you are mildly allergic to crawfish. Okay, you're right. After showing it here, Tony also knew the ability of Dabai and stretched out his arm resignedly. Dabai's chubby right hand stretched out a finger, hissed, the built-in bacitracin spray sprayed out, evenly covering Tony's injured skin on his forearm. It seems that you have put a lot of effort into programming this guy. Then definitely, I asked Jarvis to help me collect more than 10,000 medical measures, and I compiled them all. Mark pressed a button on the big white chest, and a green medical chip popped out. With this, Dabai can be called a health assistant. Tony nodded, reached out his hand and patted Dabai's belly. Polyvinyl alcohol fiber? Yes, I want to design something harmless and friendly. Looking like a walking marshmallow, I have no intention of offending. I am a robot and will not be offended. Now Tony was really cute by it. He moved closer to Dabai's head and took a look. Why use a hyperspectral lens instead of a holographic scanning device? In order to reduce the cost, I designed this version of the Dabai in accordance with the market strategy, limiting the cost of materials and equipment in all aspects. But later I will give him a big upgrade, and replace it with a nanoresin skin and holographic scanning and holographic projection equipment. What about the skeleton? Is it made of titanium alloy? No, it's carbon fiber. That's right, it's lighter. Oh. Looking inward through the white polyvinyl alcohol fiber skin, Tony saw the mechanical parts that he admired. Super compulsive motivation, you actually made it. Small point, after all, theoretical research has confirmed its feasibility, but a few small parameters have been adjusted in actual use. How about the load? Tony asked excitedly. Dubai is only equipped with a mini version of the super compulsory motive, and can now lift about 500 kilograms of heavy objects. Good job, brat. I'm paying $300 million and I will see Dubai's design parameters appear in my mailbox tonight. 900 million, and it is limited to the data of the mechanical part. Deal. After learning about the mechanical technology used in it, Tony now looked at the big white in front of him like a big sparkling diamond. You behaved well, I'll give you a lollipop. At this moment, she took out a lollipop and handed it to Tony. It's great. Tony rolled his eyes, and it turned out reward. I cannot go to sleep until you are not satisfied with my service. Tony. Good, I am satisfied with your service. Receiving a satisfactory evaluation, Dubai walked back to the red suitcase with a swing, and stood up in it. Hiss. With a sound of deflation, Dubai's body shrank, and the lid of the box turned into an inconspicuous red suitcase again. It can help a lot of people. More than that, he can make a lot of money for Stark Industries. Evil capitalist. Your food and clothing are all provided by me, a wicked capitalist's brat. By the way, what energy does he use? Graphene battery. Tony looked at Mark next to him with a dazed expression, obviously very confused about the term he proposed. For Tony doesn't know about graphene, Mark is not surprised. At the beginning of the design, Mark did not use lithium batteries with supercapacitor chargers according to the original design, considering the issues of battery life and charging. Instead, he considered using graphene batteries with stable properties, fast charging and powerful storage capacity. But after searching on the internet and various scientific magazines and journals, Mark discovered that scientists in this world have not yet discovered graphene, a super material with infinite potential. Since there are no ready-made materials to use, you can only do it yourself and have plenty of food and clothing. So Mark started with the preparation of graphene, and spent more than half a year step by step, and finally produced his ideal graphene battery. Now that Tony doesn't know about graphene, Mark will not let go of this opportunity to show up in front of him. Graphene is a two-dimensional carbon nanomaterial with a hexagonal honeycomb lattice composed of carbon atoms and sp2 hybrid orbitals. I continuously exfoliated the graphite through the micromechanical exfoliation method, and finally formed only a layer of carbon atoms. The sheet found this nanomaterial. Graphene has excellent optical, electrical, and mechanical properties. Because of its special internal structure, it has excellent electrical conductivity and optical properties. At the same time, I used the characteristics of lithium ions to quickly and massively shuttle between the graphene surface and the electrode to develop a new energy battery. Is the graphene battery used in Dubai now. The storage capacity of a graphene battery is 10 times that of an equivalent lithium battery, and the charging speed is 1,000 times that of a traditional battery. Not only that, graphene also has very good strength, the highest strength among all materials currently known, and can be used as a new type of protective material in the military field. Excellent optical properties can also be used to manufacture laser weapons. It can be said that graphene is a kind of almost omnipotent magical material. After listening to Mark's explanation of graphene, Tony stood still. Who am I, where am I from, and where I am going? It can be said that Tony Stark at this moment has been amazingly performed by Mark. I'm crippled. I, Tony Stark, would like to call you a little genius. I didn't expect that your research has progressed to this point. It has simply subverted my understanding of nanomaterials. Then definitely, after all, when you and an unknown lady are fumbling on the bed, I can't extricate myself from wandering in the ocean of knowledge. Mark's frank remarks made Tony feel very embarrassed. He changed the subject and said, So when you accepted the quotation, you specifically stated that only the mechanical data is included. This is the reason. The graphene battery and graphene material data are not. It's the data of the mechanical part, but the data of the material. I also said that I am a wicked capitalist. I think you are the one who does not spit out the bones. Give me a price. I want to buy this technology. 2.5 billion USD. So cheap? Tony refused. License fee, and it's a 1-year fee. It's really my son, the deal. By the way, what do you want to eat for dinner tonight? How about a cheeseburger? Jarvis, order a meal. Received, sir. The next morning, I wanted to take a good rest to deal with Tony, who was showing his new weapon today, but ended up staying up all night. He stayed up all night to read the technical information he had bought from his son Mark at a great expense. This kid really inherited the high IQ of our Stark family. The content in this information has benefited me a lot. Good morning, sir. Miss Potts is already waiting for you in the living room. I see. I will wash my face and change into my clothes and go. Where's that brat Mark? Is he up? Master Mark said last night that he would write a Kung Fu master chip to make to buy his personal bodyguard. He stayed up again until 2 o'clock in the morning, and he hasn't gotten up yet. Call him up. I didn't get a good night's sleep for this kid. He dared to stay in bed, and he would never allow it. Tony, who is also a genius, consciously lost a lot in the mechanical field he was good at, so he used his father come to find your dignity. In this way, Mark, who was still discussing life with Zhou Gong, was forced to get up early because of his unreliable father's poor self-esteem. Good morning, Jarvis. Good morning, Master Mark. Good morning. Little Mark. Huh. A tactful female voice suddenly entered, startled Mark, who was about to wash at the sink. Turning his head and looking around, he saw a slender blonde girl in a lady's suit. Sister Pepper. Why are you here? Did my beast dad finally reach out to you his evil claws? Mark recognized his identity and asked in surprise. What are you talking about? I'm here to remind Mr. Stark of today's itinerary. Because I want to stay and take care of the company's affairs, I can't go to Afghanistan with him, so I have to explain the itinerary to him first, so as to prevent him from oversleeping. Mr. Time agreed with the military. And how many times have I told you that you should call me Auntie? I'm almost 30 years old, so I can still be called my sister. I don't care, Sister Chili, you are so young and beautiful, you should be called sister. Wait. Mark seemed to think of something, suddenly widened his eyes, and asked in astonishment. You just said, are you in Afghanistan? Yes, what's the matter? So Tony is going to Afghanistan to display new weapons? Correct. Oops. 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 Forgot that it is April 2010, I am really busy. Fortunately, when researching graphene materials, I have already prepared that thing in advance. I hope it can play a role. Sister Pepper, wait for me for a while, don't let the smelly father go before I come out. Knowing that his father is about to leave Afghanistan and experiencing the big event that changed his life, Mark explained Pepper's basis. He turned around and went back to the room. Wait, Mark, what the hell are you doing? Boom! Before he could finish speaking, Pepper rolled his eyes helplessly, looking at the closed door in Mark's room. Really, both father and son are so unreliable. Move faster, you know. I can only help you procrastinate for a while. Although helpless, Pepper shouted and exhorted Mark in the room, indicating that he had agreed to the request. I see, it will be done soon. Listening to the response from Mark's room accompanied by the jingle sound, Pepper didn't know where he was. This was a genius disease and another attack. In fact, Mark is also very helpless. Although he is a traverser, he has no way of telling others what he knows about the future. Then he can't be treated as a neurosis by his unreliable father. He could only use the side road to give him some life-saving things, so as not to fan his butterfly wings. Tony did not become Iron Man in the end, but became invincible in the East. Shaking his head, Pepper didn't explore what Mark was doing, and decided to ask Tony how he was preparing. Jarvis, is Tony ready? Sir, we are changing clothes. You can move to the restaurant first, and want to use the breakfast carefully prepared by the chef. Thank you, Jarvis. But I have already used the meal. I'll go to the restaurant and wait for him. Time is tight today. When he eats breakfast, he will just explain the matter. With that, Pepper got up from the sofa and was about to walk to the dining room of the villa. When I turned around, I didn't pay attention and accidentally mentioned the leg of the coffee table. It hurts. Pepper Ninja didn't yell out after taking a deep breath. But when I squatted down to see my already somewhat red and swollen toes, there were still tears in my eyes. But suddenly, a strange sound caught her attention, and Pepper raised her head and saw an open suitcase not far from her sight. In the middle of the box, a white object was constantly inflated to grow up, and soon became a chubby big guy. Master, your personal health assistant has noticed that you just said it hurts, that you need medical care now. Please use 1 to 10 to indicate your pain level. Looking at this chubby, inflatable robot with a natural and harmless feeling, Pepper didn't have any defense, and replied instinctively. But I'm not sure what level it has reached. Now Dabai will skin you. Dabai's originally big black eyes, after turning on the hyperspectral lens, gave out a burst of blue light. The light swept across Pepper's body and quickly disappeared. The scan is complete. According to the analysis, your left big toe was swollen and painful due to trauma, and there was no fracture and bone fracture. It was judged to be a soft tissue contusion. It is recommended to use ethyl chloride. Quick pain relief spray. Okay. Pepper was startled by Dabai's performance, and he nodded and agreed to the treatment plan it gave. Dabai bent his short leg, squatted cumberly in front of Pepper, then stretched out a finger and sprayed the pain relief spray on the affected area. Really, it doesn't hurt anymore. It's amazing. Quick pain spray is only the current treatment plan. In order to restore health as soon as possible, please remember to apply a hot compress at night and use an anti-inflammatory drug to accelerate anti-inflammatory and swelling. Okay, thank you for telling me. Please comment on Dabai's service this time. Dabai cannot go to sleep until you are satisfied with me. Very satisfied, go back and rest. After receiving a satisfactory evaluation, Dabai swayed back to his charging box, waiting for the owner's next call. How about it, personal health assistant? It's not bad. Tony, who had been standing in the living room for some time, looked at Pepper and asked with a smug look. Dabai is really great. How did you come up with the genius idea of 3? Pepper, who was healed from body to mind by Dabai, asked Tony excitedly. But this question made Tony's face embarrassed. Actually, this is not my idea. It is Mark's invention. That's right, how can you design such a cute robot with your brain? It seems that Mark will be able to surpass your father in a short time. You have to come on. Peppers didn't save Tony's face. A knife stuck in his body made Tony's awkward face even more ugly. In order to save face, Tony immediately changed the subject. If you like it, I will ask the brat to make another one for you. He dare not disobey my father's order, hee. Based on my relationship with Mark, I can handle it without you. Okay, let's stop chatting, let's get back to business. You have a tight schedule these days. First of all, Pepper is worthy of Tony's most trusted secretary. Without saying a few words, he focused on his work tasks. Well, that's all about the itinerary negotiated with the military. I have already sent a copy of the itinerary to your mailbox. After explaining his work, Pepper did not forget Mark's request. I looked at the time and didn't mention anything to post. Instead, I said, I told you yesterday that the next few days will be very busy, and I asked you to go home early to rest. I didn't expect you to be playing so late. Although he hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Pepper used his years of knowledge of Tony, plus seeing his kidney deficiency complexion and thick dark circles under her eyes, she believed that she should have guessed it. Hearing the accent of Pepper's words and the disgusting little eyes, Tony immediately explained with an innocuous expression. You have misunderstood me. I did go home directly after work last night. Yes. It's not that brat. The technique he used on Dabai is really fascinating. It took me a night to read the relevant information, and it was in a bad state. Really? Pepper didn't believe it. It's true. Ask Mark if you don't believe me. Okay, just assume what you said is true. Seeing Tony pulled out his son as a shield, Pepper barely believed the statement. Just what it's called. Tony wanted to explain something, but was interrupted by Mark, who suddenly opened the door and came out of the room. Father, come here and see what I have prepared for you. Mark dragged a silver-gray suit with excitement, beckoning roar to Tony. Have you come up with something weird? With curiosity, Tony walked with Pepper to the door of Mark's room. What is weird? You are jealous that I have a higher ability than you. This suit is made by me using graphene nanomaterials and carbon fiber brackets, plus the Kung Fu Master chip I wrote just last night. After wearing it, it can not only protect your torso from hot weapons and cold weapons, but also can make you instantly become a martial arts master. That's right, this suit is specially made by Mark for his father's trip to Afghanistan. It is inspired by the movie Fantastic Tuxedo by Jackie Chan that Mark had seen in his previous life. However, for convenience and fashion, Mark did not completely copy the design in the movie, but changed it into a slim fashion suit. And it is limited to time. In fact, Mark is too indulged in the ocean of knowledge and forgot to pay attention to time. Mark failed to achieve the magical tuxedo in the movie, giving the wearer many abilities to fly to the sky, and can only take the original the Kung Fu Master chip to be installed for Dubai is loaded first. But Mark believes that having this suit is enough for Tony to survive the attack in Afghanistan, at least without putting a big bump on his chest. You are too worried. There are so many military soldiers protecting me. How can I be in danger? This trip is very safe. Don't worry. Although he said so, Tony still took Mark the made protective suit. But since it's your heart, I'll put it on. After all, it looks pretty good. Even if it is moved inside, it is impossible for Tsundera's Tony to express it straightforwardly. Now he has not learned how to express it. But deep in his heart, Tony made a secret decision. After this trip is over, he must repair the relationship between father and son and make up for his past negligence. Afghanistan, Baghlan Air Force Base. General, hello? Hello, Mr. Stark. The general held Tony's outstretched hand. I look forward to your weapon display today. Thanks. In a deserted blasting field, Tony wore a silver-gray slim-fit suit customized for him by Mark and a pair of brown gold-framed sunglasses. He was doing a serious speech before the weapon display. Which is better, to be feared or respected? Should I say that both are too much? Therefore, I humbly present the flagship product of the Stark Industrial Freedom Series, which is a missile system incorporating our patented impact technology. People often say that the best weapons are those that don't need to be used. I respectfully disagree. I prefer weapons that you only need to use once. My father did this, my country did it, and it has been very successful so far. Make an excuse to launch this thing. I personally guarantee that the bad guys will never want to crawl out of the hole again. As soon as the voice fell, Tony waved to the turret to launch the missile. Whoosh! As the missile quickly lifted into the air and headed towards the preset target in the shooting range behind Tony, when approaching the target, the entire missile suddenly began to disintegrate and split into dozens of smaller missiles. For reference only, this is our Jericho missile. What appeared together with Tony's words of pretending to be 13 was the violent aftermath of a devastating blow to the target more than 10 kilometers away. The strong air current even blew the hats on the heads of the soldiers on the scene. The display effect is excellent, and it can be said that the purpose of this trip has been successfully achieved. Tony came to a metal box with huge amounts of, and took out the glass and champagne that he had prepared. For every transaction over $500 million US, I will give one this piece. Tony toasted and drank. Exhausted. At this moment, the spirited Tony didn't know that a conspiracy against him had been brewing in secret. It was a business deal, and Tony was so excited that instead of boarding a protective vehicle specially prepared for him, he boarded an ordinary military vehicle. For him, this was a bit of fun on the boring journey home. And his good friend Colonel Rod did not persuade too much, letting Tony's petty temper. I'll follow to protect you, see you at our base. Okay, see you at the base. Brave soldier, let's set off toward our destination. In the car, feeling the roar of the engine of a military vehicle galloping on the sand, and the rugged road testing the limits of tires and suspension, Tony felt passionate. Hey boy, do you have a girlfriend? Tony suddenly asked a handsome soldier next to him, who was heavily armed. There is no officer yet. The boy was obviously not an old Yutiao who had been in the army for many years. He straightened his back when he answered, and his voice was very loud. Okay, relax, buddy. I'm just chatting with you, and I'm not your chief. After all, the journey is too boring. We have to have some fun. While talking, Tony buttoned his suit jacket. Untied, he stretched out his hand and took off the tie on his neck. It's really hot in the desert. Then Mr. Stark. A soldier boldly said, I heard that you slept with the cover girl of last year's Mark Sim, Men's Magazine for 12 months. Is this true? This veteran is obviously more experienced than the young man just now, and his opening is a topic that everyone is very interested in. This is... Boom! Before the soldiers waited for the answer they were expecting, a shell fell in the middle of the convoy, interrupting Tony's words. The car was overturned by the air wave, and the soldiers on the car suffered varying degrees of damage and passed out. Only Tony, who was protected in the middle, escaped with luck. Turning out of the lathe with difficulty, looking at the scene in front of him, Tony quickly took out his phone and wanted Roar to call for help. But his phone hasn't been connected yet, and a missile fell beside him. Boom! The explosion hit again, blasting Tony away. Protected by the graphene protective suit, his torso did not receive any damage from the explosion. However, because he had unbuttoned the car deadly before, and the suit failed to protect his heart under the influence of the explosion, Tony's chest was still hit by shrapnel, and his life was in jeopardy. Before he was about to lose consciousness, he saw the shell of the missile that attacked him, clearly printed with the Stark logo. When Tony woke up again, his environment had changed drastically. The surrounding environment looked like a dark and dry cave, and he was lying on a folding iron bed. Turning his head, a strange man he had never seen was fixing his beard with the help of the weak light. Feeling the strangeness in his chest, Tony raised his head with difficulty, looked at his chest, and then found a strange device. 2 wires extended from the top and connected to the accumulator next to the bed. Without thinking about it, Tony reached out and was about to tear down the weird device. If I were you, I wouldn't do this. At this moment, the strange man stopped Tony from moving. What the hell did you do to me? After trying to calm the panic in his heart, Tony calmly asked the strange man his question. What did I do? I saved your life. I tried to take out some shrapnel, but because the shrapnel is too small, coupled with the conditions here, there are still some residues. They may follow all the time the blood is flowing to your heart. Seeing the doubt on Tony's face, he picked up a glass vial from the side table and showed it to Tony. Want to see? I have a souvenir, let's take a look. Taking the small bottle, Tony saw the tiny shrapnel through the faint light. The strange man on the side continued his speech. I have seen many people with this kind of injury in our village. We call them live dead man, because the shrapnel will enter the vital organs in a week. What about this? What is this? Tony put down the bottle with shrapnel and tapped the iron bump on his chest. That's an electromagnet, powered by the car battery. It can prevent shrapnel from entering your heart. Now Tony began to regret not fastening the damn button on his suit properly. Did you see the suit on me? Now on the table over there, but don't expect to find anything. It can be left here to prove that everything on it has been raided. No, the important thing is the suit originally. It was a gift from my son. Tony felt a little guilty when he thought of the sad expressions of Mark and Pepper, who were thousands of miles away, after hearing the news of their attack. I have never cherished the important people around me. In fact, we met at the Burn Technology Conference. I do not remember. You definitely can't remember. If I was as drunk as you at the time, I would have fallen down a long time ago, let alone giving a speech about integrated circuits. Where are we? Tony asked the question he most wanted to know at the moment. Quickly, stand up, stand up. Before he could answer Tony's question, he noticed someone approaching outside the cave door, and he immediately urged Tony to get up. Follow me and raise your hands quickly. Tony hasn't figured out the situation yet, so he can only follow along. But when he saw the weapons in the hands of the incoming terrorists, he couldn't calm down anymore. Those are all guns I made. How did they get them? Don't understand what I said? Follow me. The person who walked in front and looked like the leader of the terrorists saw Tony, who had woken up, and spoke a lot in a language that Tony hadn't heard before. Upon seeing this, the strange man next to Tony translated to him. He said he welcomes you, Tony Stark, the biggest executioner in America's history. He is honored to meet you, and hopes that you can build that missile for him, and you will test launch it. Jericho missile. That's it. He took a clear photo from the Terra Polymer leader and showed it to Tony. Knowing the purpose of the other party, Tony was stupid. He should have been touched by the strictly confidential whereabouts and weapons. He was also seriously injured by the Stark industrial weapon that the other party had obtained without knowing how. And now he is threatened to work for terrorists by the weapon he invented. Tony knew that someone must have betrayed him, but it was because of this that he couldn't believe that, as the soul of Stark Industry, he was sold. I won't do it. Tony, who has never been beaten up by society, naturally cannot be moved by 1 or 2 sentences. So next, under the command of the leader, they used actions to make Tony feel their sincerity. Tony, who was tortured and educated, came outside the cave under the leadership of the terrorists. And here, there's a huge amount of firepower capable of destroying a small city. The words Stark Industry, printed on each weapon, are extremely dazzling. How are you thinking about it? The strange man continued to act as the leader's interpreter. You have a lot of weapons I made. He said that he has all the accessories for making Jericho missiles. He wants you to make a list of materials for him. He wants you to do it right away. Once it's done, they will let you go. He won't. Tony faintly agreed, reaching out and squeezing the leader's hand. Yes. The strange man agreed. So in the next critical time, Tony, with the encouragement of the strange man, decided to go against the wrong, and strive to create hope in order to escape here, and he finally knew the name of his savior, Ethan, and also knew the kidnapping of himself. The names of the terrorists, they call themselves 10 Rings. Taking advantage of the terrorists' desire for Jericho missiles, Tony got a very rudimentary but barely usable studio. He still had a lot of materials that the other party gave him to make missiles. How can I escape? It depends on Tony Stark, your genius brain. There are still people waiting for you at home. Ethan, come and help me. Cheering themselves up, Tony and Ethan started their plans. Tony first used the ready-made high-purity palladium element in the material on hand to create an arc reactor for himself, which can generate 3 billion joules of energy per second, which is used to power the electromagnet in his chest, so that he can get rid of the shackles of the battery, can move freely. It can provide you with enough energy to live 4 lifetimes. Ethan exclaimed. Or let the big machine run for 50 minutes. Then he handed over a bunch of drawings to Ethan. Ethan, what is this? He showed Ethan the secret weapon he was going to use to escape from birth. Fold up the drawings and look at it. Wow! It's wonderful. When all the drawings overlapped, what Ethan saw was a mighty steel armor. I called him Mark I, named after my son. A lot of his genius ideas gave me a lot of inspiration. He will be as great as you in the future. No, he will definitely be even more amazing than me. The plan is progressing very smoothly. With the joint efforts of Tony and Ethan, the various parts of Mark I were built one after another. However, it was precisely because of the smooth progress of the plan that both of them relaxed their vigilance, forgetting that they were in the wolf den, and their every move would fall into the eyes of 10 Rings. With the increasing number of Mark I components, the monitors also began to discover that what they were doing was far from the appearance of Jericho. After bringing his men to threaten, 10 Rings gave a deadline and must hand over the assembled Jericho missile the next day. Time is running out, tonight is destined to be a sleepless night. But this sense of tension did not make them panic. After completing all the armor parts in an orderly manner, the plan finally reached a critical juncture. How about can you act? Ethan asked, helping Tony put on the armor. No problem, I have never felt so good. Suddenly, Ethan frowned and stopped his movements. He heard footsteps coming from outside the door. Ethan, Stark. Where are you guys? Come out. A terrorist's voice came from outside the door, his voice very anxious. I was discovered by them. What should I do, Tony? You say something first, hold them steady. But they speak Hungarian. Then say this. But I won't. Well then, what will you do? Ethan thought for a while, and began to respond to the people outside in the language he often communicated with the leader of 10 Rings. But it was useless at all, and the terrorist who didn't understand what he said decided to come in and check it out himself. Quickly opened the lock of the door, and the two opened the iron door to enter. But it was not Tony and Ethan kneeling down to beg for mercy, but an explosion trap that had been ambushed long ago. Boom! The fiery ball of fire was like a beast, devouring the two. The huge amounts of movement alarmed the terrorists in the entire 10 Rings base. Go, catch them for me. With the delay of the explosion, Ethan began to help Tony load the Mark I control system. However, the approaching footsteps outside the door made Ethan very anxious. They are coming. Don't worry, we will be the one who gets the job done and wins. We need more time. Suddenly Ethan seemed to have made a decision. I'll buy you some time. Seeing that Ethan wanted to rush out the door, Tony immediately stopped. Ethan! Come as planned. However, Ethan was not moved at all, and continued to walk outside. Wait! Wait! Tony shouted louder now. At least put on my suit. Do you mean to make me die decently? Ethan felt a little dumbfounded when he heard Tony's instructions. No, do you remember that I told you this was a gift from my son? Yes, I remember. He is a genius, even if he is not an adult now, he is still a genius who is no less inferior to me. This suit uses a new type of nanomaterial he invented, which can be effectively used in various weapons. Maximum protection of your torso. He will definitely become a better and greater person than you. He knows how to replace destruction with protection. After speaking, Ethan took a suit and put it on his body, and resolutely walked out of the room. Outside the door, the thin Dr. Ethan had picked up the guns left by the terrorists on the ground and started a fight with the enemy. At the moment, the loading progress of the control system was just over 50%. Without the coordination of the control system, Tony could only be trapped in the heavy steel armor, unable to move. Anxious, he could only stare at the progress bar on the screen, praying that Ethan would be safe in the siege of 10 Rings. Ethan, who rushed out of the room with a rifle, was not as embarrassed and miserable as Tony thought at the moment, and his hands were powerless. Ethan, who had made up his mind to let Tony escape even at the expense of himself, was very surprised at his current state. When facing the enemy, his body seemed to be no longer his own, all kinds of difficult toss and turns, avoiding the bullets shot by the enemy. Even if a few stray bullets hit him occasionally, he couldn't penetrate the protection of his suit at all. The rifle in his hand was also opened and hung. After the automatic aiming, the index finger felt an electric current stimulus, and with a bang, the enemy in front of him had been killed by the bullet in the middle of the eyebrow. Stark. Your son is really a genius greater than you. I'm going to be super god today. Ethan doesn't care if Tony behind him can hear what he said, but he can't help it. After shouting out and venting, he went on to continue his path of super god. In fact, this is exactly the Kung Fu Master chip that Mark loaded for the suit before. It is important to know that in the data Mark entered into the chip, in addition to the close combat data of the martial arts masters of various countries, even the King of Special Forces did not miss it. Plus, it's not uncommon for Ethan to be able to hit all shots with the assist system added by Mark. When Ethan wiped out all the terrorists who arrived first, Tony, whose control system had been loaded, had also arrived behind him in full gear. Looking at the enemy's corpse lying on the floor, Tony's expression of surprise got out of control. Ethan, you didn't tell me that you are a sharpshooter other than a scholar. No. Tony, this one invented by your son is really great. I feel like I have been born anew today. This dress is so awesome. Tony now feels more regretful that he didn't wear this suit tightly. However, you are wrong. It's not that you really want to get a new life, but that we will soon get a new life. Tony controls the slightly cumbersome Mark I, protecting Ethan from the base. With the powerful firepower of the battle armor and the mobility of Ethan on the side, the two gods blocked and killed the gods and Buddhas. After successfully leaving the cave, they detonated the Ten Rings arsenal and completely turned the base into ruins. Ah! Boom! Tony and Mark I were heavily planted into the sand on the ground. The strong impact caused the heavy armor to fall apart and turn into a pile of accessories. On the other hand, Ethan at the moment has stood up unharmed and has to praise Mark for his thoughtful consideration when designing this suit. When Ethan was about to land and endure the impact, the suit was like a car opening an airbag, and it suddenly expanded, wrapping Ethan into a sphere, which saved him. Ha ha ha! I am born again. Today Ethan is born again. You dash. Ethan, who was regained free, was paralyzed, kneeling weakly on the sand and crying. Not bad. What's the matter with Ethan? Why are you crying? Tony, who finally crawled out of the sand, looked at Ethan, who was sobbing, very puzzled. Oh, you. I rushed out just now to buy time for you. I planned to sacrifice for this. All my family members died in their hands, and I think it would be just right to stay with them like this. But in the end I came alive, I regained my freedom, regained a new life, and I felt the beauty of life again. Promise me, Tony, don't waste your life and waste your time. I promise you, Ethan, this is the promise made to you by Tony Stark, who was reborn today. The New York State Air Force Base, carrying Tony's military transport aircraft returning from Afghanistan, landed safely on the airport runway. Ethan did not come with him. He lived in his hometown of Gumilla, hoping to make his own contribution to its peace. Tony did not prevent Ethan from realizing his ideals and values. Before leaving, he gave the suit Mark gave him to Ethan, hoping that with its help, Ethan can approach his goals step by step. With the help of Colonel Rod, Tony walked out of the cabin. Sharp-eyed Tony had already seen not far away, standing on the tarmac waiting for Mark, Pepper, and Harpy. Your eyes are red. Are you crying for your boss who has been missing for a long time? These are tears of joy. I hate job hunting, Pepper said stiffly. Okay, the holiday is over. Father, you are too shameful. Wearing the protective clothing I gave you can make yourself like this. Sister Shijiao can't eat and sleep for you every day. What about you, brat? But don't you worry about me. I don't worry about you, anyway, I'm used to you no longer by my side. Don't worry, no one will separate us from father and son in the future. After Tony finished speaking, he wanted to use his uninjured left hand to take Mark into his arms and give him a father's hug. Unexpectedly, Mark stepped back and avoided him. It's disgusting, Daddy. Are you brainwashed by terrorists, or tortured crazy to do something that is not like you? Tony. Welcome back, sir, please get in the car now. Happy opened the door of the back seat, welcoming several people into the car. Where are we going? Go to the hospital. Pepper thought without hesitation. No. Tony refused. Why not, Tony? You have to go to the hospital. Pepper glared at Tony angrily. If you don't go, you won't go. Tony had to play a childish temper in the face of Pepper's stolen concerned gaze. Forget it, Sister Pepper. Mark started to be a peacemaker. Don't go if you don't go to the hospital. Anyway, I put Dubai in the trunk. If Dubai diagnoses any problem, I will personally compress him to the hospital. Yes, Pepper. I know my body. Even if you don't believe me, don't you still believe in Mark's invention? I have been in prison for 3 months, and now I have 2 things I want to do. The first is a cheeseburger, and the second is... Enough, Tony, you are so shameless! Pepper blushed and interrupted him. It's not the one you thought. I want to hold a press conference. Hold a press conference? Yes, but before that, Harpy, drive. Let's find a cheeseburger first. Stark Convention and Exhibition Center, backstage of the press conference. Dubai, check this old man's body. After receiving the owner, the scan begins. The scan is complete. According to data analysis, the patient has multiple soft tissue contusions and open trauma, minor bone fractures in his right arm, and metal foreign bodies remaining in the chest, which may cause major hemorrhage of vital organs, as well as symptoms of malaise and excessive fatigue. It is recommended that you stop eating junk foods such as cheeseburgers, and adjust your state through adequate sleep and a balanced diet before proceeding to the next level 1 treatment. Papa! Mark looked at Tony and reminded. Okay, I'm very satisfied with your service. Tony commented on Dubai's service knowingly. Anything else? Seeing Mark's palms stretched out in front of him, Tony finally reluctantly put the last cheeseburger in Mark's hand. Is this all right? Let's do this for the time being. After the press conference, remember to go back and get a good night's sleep, and stop looking for a woman. Mark nodded in satisfaction, and then ordered. I am this kind of person. When Mark heard these words, he showed a disgusting expression. Do you still know yourself? You definitely are. But I have regained my life. Now I am not the Tony I used to be. It's easy to change the country, but it's hard to change its nature. A dog can't change it and eat shit. You are still not my son, my heart hurts. Regardless of what the father and son were doing in the background, Pepper, who was organizing the flow of activities at the front desk, met a mysterious man. Is it Miss Potts? That's right, it's me. Faced with the strange man's question, Pepper felt a little hesitant. Can I have a word with you? I will not participate in the Q&A at this reception, but the press conference will begin immediately. Pepper signaled that the other party could raise his own questions after the meeting. I'm not a reporter, I'm an agent. To introduce myself, my name is Phil Coulson, and I belong to the Bureau of Strategic Defense, Attack and Logistics. Are you talking about tongue twisters? Pepper faced this long and smelly organization name, and it was rare to burn his own soul of Tutzel. We are still improving on this. Phil Coulson replied somewhat embarrassingly. But we have already received inquiries from the Department of Defense, the FBI, and the CIA. Ms. Potts, we are an independent department with more specific goals. We need to ask Mr. Stark about his specific circumstances when he escaped. I'll add it to Tony's schedule, okay? Pepper found an excuse to send Phil Coulson. Thank you. Phil Coulson knew there was nothing to do and decided to retreat temporarily, waiting for the next opportunity. Gentlemen and ladies, the press conference is about to begin. Please take your seats in an orderly manner according to the seating arrangement. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Tony Stark to speak on stage. Well, the reception has started. Don't stretch yourself so tightly. It's too formal. As we all know, I failed to say goodbye to my father, and I have some questions that I have never had time to ask him. What does he think of the company? Whether he has struggled and doubted? Maybe he is like that in the news documentary. But this time, I saw young soldiers in our country being killed, and it was the weapons I made to protect them that killed them. I have also seen that I have become a member of a system that is unwilling to take responsibility. Tony's topic gradually deepened, and the atmosphere at the scene became heavier. Everyone in the audience held their breath and listened attentively to Tony's speech. There was only one person, his face getting more and more ugly. He smelled an unusual smell from Tony's speech. This person is the veteran of Stark Industry and Howard Stark's business partner Obadiah Stein. Mr. Stark, where did you experience what? At this time a reporter stood up and asked his own question. I was an eye-opener there, and I realized that I could do more for the world, not just make an explosion. Therefore I made a decision, close the arms manufacturing department of Stark International. When Tony announced this decision, Obadiah's face was completely darkened. Tony Stark. Damn. In addition, just when the scene was messed up by Tony's shocking speech, Tony's speech did not end. I want to introduce someone to everyone. Maybe you all know him. After all, when it was revealed that I had a son, your newspaper sales increased a lot. That's right, I'm going to introduce my son, Mark Stark. The owner of Mark is not inferior to my mechanical ability. The fresh and youthful ideas in his mind will even open a new door for me. Not long ago, he really did it. Great White. With Tony's call, the unremarkable red suitcase placed on the stage of the venue automatically opened. After a while of inflation, Dubai swayed to the front of the stage. Hello, this is Dubai, your personal health assistant. Do you need medical care? Wow. The appearance of Dubai made Roar amazed at the scene. After Tony repeated Mark's experiment with a roll of tape again, everyone stared at the big white on the stage with scorching eyes. So, as the chairman of Stark Group, my second decision today is that Stark Industries will enter the medical industry. With the announcement of Tony's decision, the scene boiled again, and Obadiah couldn't sit still anymore. He immediately went to the stage and put his arms around Tony's shoulders, keeping him away from the microphone. Okay, I believe you will not worry about selling the newspaper tomorrow. I think the good news you should take away from here today is that Tony Stark is back, and he is healthier than ever. Okay, today's press conference it will end here. Hey, Daddy Smelly. As soon as the press conference was over, Mark in the backstage ran up to Tony with a bad expression. Why don't I remember that I authorized Stark Industrial Production, and I don't even remember having followed me. I mentioned that today I want to talk about my business. Seeing Mark, who was questioning himself angrily, Tony rolled his eyes a few times and bit his scalp and replied, Actually, I was on a temporary basis. As soon as the words were spoken, a dangerous look appeared in Mark's expression. Tony quickly said, Don't worry, let me explain. It's no wonder that Tony is so afraid of Mark getting angry. Although the father and son usually spend very little time together, some things still make Tony's hair stand on end in retrospect. I still remember that when Mark was 6 years old, Tony complained that the magnetic levitation bicycle he made at the time was of little use and worthless. As a result, Mark secretly replaced the shower gel in the bathroom with the hardened foam he prepared, leaving Tony trapped in the bath that night. The bathroom was all night. The next day, when the bubble lost its effectiveness, Tony escaped and was about to find Mark to settle accounts. Mark's words formed a deep psychological shadow on him, making Tony never dare to annoy Mark again. Daddy, you came out? I also want to take a few photos as a souvenir, and then put you at the door for an exhibition. I didn't expect this formula to be so ineffective, and the effect lasted all night. It is precisely because of this memorable experience that at the moment, seeing the small face at the door that had started blacken, Tony immediately explained to him. Although I made a temporary intention this time, let you show up in front of the national media. But think about it, as my Tony Stark's son, the future heir to the Stark Group, it's impossible to escape the media spotlight from the moment you come back to me. I'm 14 years old now, and I'll be an adult in a few years. I'll help you build momentum, and you're originally an extremely talented genius. When you take over the power of the company from me, you will be a member of the board of directors. It will not cause you any hindrance. But I want to keep a low-key development and be an old lady. You are too popular like you, maybe one day you will be kidnapped to make weapons. And who wants to integrate your Stark Group? I'm obsessed with knowledge. Man, I don't bother to take care of company affairs. I think you should give birth to Sister Pepper as the heir while the kidney deficiency is not too serious. Pepper, who heard Mark's words on the side, immediately blushed on his white cheeks. Tony also reacted fiercely and blushed and said loudly, You are young, don't learn well, is this something you should take care of? To be honest, regarding Dubai's authorization, I plan to set up a company in your name to specialize in operating the various technologies and future inventions you have accumulated over the years. The company is 100% controlled by you and only handles all matters related to you. Regarding Dubai's licensing fees, negotiations will be conducted after the company's formation is completed. You can rest assured that I will not give you anything less. Well, I accept your explanation. I won't be embarrassed for the sake of the money. But let's not take it as an example. If you dare to chop and play it later, be careful that I pour the latest super spicy vegetarian mix on your underwear. Tony trembled, and at the same time he felt a little bit lucky. Fortunately, he just fooled things over, otherwise it would be so sour and hard to believe. Don't worry, There will be absolutely no next time, I promise. At this moment, Tony saw Obadiah Stine walking towards him with a dark face not far away, and he was overjoyed. Oh, Obadiah is here. Looking at his serious expression, there must be something very important. Tell me, Mark, you follow your sister Pepper. I'm going to talk about work. Tony, who regarded Obadiah as his savior, immediately used him as an excuse to get rid of Mark. Wiping off the sweat on his head, Tony greeted Obadiah and said, Uncle Obi, what can I do for you? What you did just now is really good, Tony. Obadiah said insincerely. I think so too. Tony said along with the donkey. Tony, how far do you think the stock price of Stark Industries will fall tomorrow? Obadiah's face darkened even as Tony was still scornful. An optimistic estimate of 40 points. That's the least. Obadiah lit a cigar for himself, trying to calm down. Yes. Tony, we are a weapon manufacturer. Obi, I don't want us to leave just a bunch of kill numbers in the future. This is our job. We are arms dealers and we should make weapons. Not anymore. I have announced that Stark Group will enter the medical field. We will become a more profitable and greater company. Are you talking about the inflatable doll with little Mark? Don't start, Tony. Who would believe that something invented by a 14-year-old kid can't save the Stark Group's stock price? Then let's talk about arc reactor? I am also very optimistic about the new energy field. Please, Tony. Arc reactor is a gimmick. It was built to silence the media and politicians. Speaking of Obadiah, he reached out to the middle of the exhibition hall, the prototype of the arc reactor made by Howard Stark back then. But he succeeded. Tony insisted. Yes, but it was a scientific project. Its commercial benefits were not good at all. We knew before it was built that the arc reactor technology is a dead end, right? Maybe. I'm right. How long have we not been able to make a breakthrough with this technology? According to them, it has been 30 years. Can your poker face be a little more ugly? Tell me who said it, who told you that I made a breakthrough in technology. Pepper or Rod? Leave it alone, Tony, I want to watch. Pepper or Rod? Well, it's Rod. Hearing the answer, Tony unbuttoned his shirt and showed the arc reactor on his chest in front of Obadiah. It works. Okay. Seeing what he wanted, Obadiah smiled greedily. He took Tony's shoulder and said affectionately, Listen to me, Tony. We are in the same team, understand? As long as we work together, there is nothing we can't do, just like me and your father back then. Sorry, Obi. I didn't discuss it with you in advance, but if I say, Tony. Obadiah stopped what Tony wanted to explain. Listen to me, there will be no more preparation, aiming, ignition things. Do you understand what I mean? Yes, these things are the same route my father took back then. Yes, Tony. Try to keep a low profile, and let me take care of the next thing. That guy definitely has a problem. What? Pepper was puzzled by Mark's sudden emergence. I mean that old man, Obadiah. Tony is absolutely inseparable from him if something happens. Seeing that he was talking to Tony, a pair of kindly elder Obadiah Stine, Mark decided to call Pepper in advance. Vaccinations. Mark knew that in Tony's accident this time, Obadiah was behind the scenes. But he suffers from no evidence in his hands. Only relying on his previous life's familiarity with the plot cannot be used as a reason to accuse the other party, so the best way is to plant a seed of doubt in Pepper's heart and pass it. Pepper influenced Tony's thinking. The entire company knows about Tony's itinerary and only you, as the secretary, and Obadiah, as the vice chairman. Since terrorists can accurately ambush Tony's only way, it must be one of you who has leaked information. I believe this person will not be your little chilly sister, so it can only be this old man. Will it really be him? Pepper also became suspicious when he heard Mark's analysis. Although she could not produce evidence to prove for herself, she knew that she had never betrayed Tony. If Mark's analysis is correct, then Obadiah really. Okay, Sister Chili, don't think about these things. After all, it's just my personal speculation, so don't tell me. And I want to ask my sister to do something for me. Seeing Mark, who was suddenly embarrassed, Pepper chuckled. Come on with me, let's talk about what is going on. I will help you if it can be done. As you know, I have collected a lot of money from my dad over the years. I want you to find a reliable financial company for me, and tomorrow will help me take all the money to buy the stock of Stark Group. No problem. Pepper agreed without thinking. Don't you persuade me? Mark is a little curious as to how Pepper agreed so readily. After all, he has tens of billions of deposits in his hands, and anyone with a discerning eye knows that Stark's stock will fall sharply tomorrow. Normal people wouldn't agree with Mark's contrarian move. I believe in Tony and your ability. Don't forget that you promised me a special version of Dubai before. Don't worry, the pink custom model, plus the lovely lowly sound, I will deliver it to you tomorrow. I have thought about the name. How about the name King Kong Barbie? I think I'll name it myself. What happened to Stark Industries? At 8:30 in the evening, Tony returned home exhausted. Even though dinner time has passed, it is really early for Mark to go home at this time. It's none of your business, so don't worry about it. I can still solve this. Tony walked over to Mark and touched his head. I don't bother to care about you anyway. But I believe what you said before. Mark raised his hand and opened Tony's slightly rough palm. What? You said before that you have regained a new life, and you are no longer the Tony Stark of the past. From the point that you didn't spend the night outside today, I am willing to believe this. Smelly boy, even teasing me. I think you, a little guy who hasn't grown full of hair, would not know the joy of in-depth communication between adults. While talking, Tony squinted his eyes and made a pair. Aftertaste expression. I can't tell you. But in the end, if Sister Pepper marries someone else and have a child, don't regret it. I see, I'm already working hard. You quickly make the robot that promised her, so I can find the opportunity to give it to Pepper to please her. Don't worry, this time I customized a pink exclusive skin for her, and a lowly sound recorded by a famous Disney voice actor. Besides the health assistant chip, I also updated the personal bodyguard chip, fitness trainer chip, and heartwarming nanny chip. Waiting for more than a dozen practical chips to ensure that from head to toe, clothing, food, housing and transportation, she will create a caring life assistant for Sister Pepper. Not bad. Wait, you raise her living standards so much. When you compare it with me, doesn't it seem that I don't care enough about him? That's a bad remark, old man. Do you think Sister Pepper has been by your side for so long, can't get your exclusive love, but never leave it? Is it because you care about her enough? No. Is it because you look so amazing? Not really. Is it because your family is rich and rich than the country? Not even more. It's because you are smart, so smart that your brain alone feels sexually enough to attract Sister Pepper's attention. So you don't know where your strengths are. The robots you and I make are simply incomparable. I heard you say that, it seems to be so. How do you feel that you have more emotional experience than me when you are young? You have been living at home since you were young, and you haven't even gone to school. Where did you learn of these things? You are out of date, Daddy. What age is it now? It's 2010, and mobile phones can use 3G internet at any time, and the 4G era is about to come. Don't you usually use the internet? Although China's old saying goes well, the book has its own golden house, the book has its own Yen Ryu. But now the mobile internet era is coming. Any information and knowledge can be obtained through the internet. What are these 36 tips for falling in love? How to make myself more active in love are already the knowledge points of the bad street. Let me tell you that, according to my analysis, as the internet becomes more and more developed, popularization and internet speed increase, the future will usher in an era of online knowledge payment. I am now preparing for a private tutoring chip and the related education cloud platform. I believe there will be a lot to do in the future. Hearing Mark's analysis of the future situation, Tony's expression became serious. He doesn't think these words are child's play. Tony knows exactly how smart Mark is. Now that he can find the basis for this inference from various aspects, Tony can be sure of what Mark said. The era of online knowledge payment will definitely come. Do you have any thoughts about the future? Tell me. I used to underestimate your kid. I didn't expect that you are really a talented person and you will know everything if you don't go out. Cut, how did you look down on me before? You didn't even look at me straight up, okay. Alas, I also know that after all, I'm just an illegitimate child who suddenly appeared in your life, making you very embarrassed. Okay, brat. Don't pretend to be garlic with me. I don't take your trick anymore. Let's set the conditions. How much will it cost this time? Well, look, Buffett's lunch auction is not less than $2 million. I will give you an accurate and detailed analysis of the future situation. This value can never be lower than a lunch. You just give me a 7. It's $1.77 million, and it's okay to ask for a prize. Count you cruel. Tony took out the checkbook and pen in his pocket, and scribbled the amount and signature on it. Tony tore off the check and put it in Mark's palm. Okay, profiteer. Hey, he is an illegitimate child after all, so he still has to save more money in his pocket to feel confident. Mark stared at the check in his hand, as if there were 2 small gold coins ticking in his eyes. This is a habit left by Mark in his previous life. After all, he was used to being poor in his previous life, and it is inevitable that he has some extraordinary attachments to money. Although he was born in a wealthy family in this life, he was only an illegitimate child after all. Mark still likes to save his own money to be on the safe side. Hearing Mark's words, Tony just gave him a disgusting glance. Mark accepted as soon as he saw it, put the check in his pocket, and began to express his own opinions on the future trend. To say it is an insight, the world is nothing more than an analysis and prediction made by referring to the trajectory of social development in the previous life, combined with the specific conditions in the reality of this life. Combining the business prospects of big data, cloud services, Internet of Things, intelligent AI, blockchain, etc., which have been impressive in my last 18 years of life, combined with the reality of the world, it is already night. It's 2 o'clock. Okay. That's all I want for the time being. I'm trapped to death. Okay, come here today, you go to bed. By the way, one more thing. Tomorrow you have to help me replace the arc reactor with a new one. My hand is too big to reach the inner thread. Hearing Tony's request, Mark immediately became completely drowsy. Don't even think about it. The thing on your chest is disgusting. It's full of pus, and I won't stick my hand in if I kill it. And you don't do anything. Such a good opportunity to get closer to Sister Pepper. Why did you call me for help? Tomorrow Sister Pepper will come over the robot that I have finished debugging. Then you can call her for help. But isn't this a bit bad? Tony was a little shy and convulsed. What if it scares her? Hey! The way you look now really corrupts your image of a playboy and a love veteran in my mind. You don't want to be the one who doesn't even dislike you for this. Doesn't you just make it clear that you like you? If she really dislikes you because of this, then you have to work hard to pursue others. This kind of beneficial and harmless thing, what are you still there hesitation? Then, how about I try tomorrow? Okay, Pepper. Wait for me here, don't open your eyes in advance to take a peek. I'm going to get things out now, wait for me. As soon as Pepper arrived at the door today, Tony took her to the underground garage of the villa. In order to give the other party a better surprise, Tony also asked Jarvis to go online to help him find it according to Mark's method, so along the way, Tony used the method learned from the internet to blindly cover Pepper's eyes. Is it all right, Tony? What the hell is it with you? I want to tell Mark to take the robot he gave me. Forget Mark. Tony walked behind her and gently took off her blindfold. It's time for me to give you a gift. Look at what it is. Looking in the direction of Tony's fingers, Pepper's eyes were caught in a pink mini suitcase, the file size of which was even smaller than that of the white charging case. The exterior of the suitcase is frosted and matted, which looks fashionable and beautiful. The center of the front is decorated with a yellow LED light strip in the shape of a love heart, which is obviously a special design for women to join. Seeing all this in front of him, Pepper could say that her girlish heart was about to be guilty, and Shu Lingling's big eyes were shining with a different kind of splendor. Come on, Daddy! Outside the glass door of the garage, Mark, who was observing all this secretly, gave Tony a whisper. Tony also looked at him and nodded. I will. Hey! I hope the old man can do it. He is purer than a virgin in front of the person he likes, and I don't know if such a good atmosphere will mess up. But this time, thanks to Sister Pepper's matter, otherwise I have forgotten the happy of recharging money to buy skins in my previous life. Then, I will design a few more skins for the popular version of personal health assistance, and provide a private for the wealthy. Customized services must allow the people of this universe to also enjoy the happiness of Phil money, quack quack. Regardless of Mark, who has fallen into his own obscenity on the side, Tony's at the moment is about to start acting. How about it, do you like it? This is the personal health assistant specially made for you, King Kong Barbie. Hearing Tony's introduction, Pepper, who was already very excited, suddenly became a black line. You are not telling me the truth. Is it really called King Kong Barbie? As if feeling that the atmosphere has turned into something wrong, Tony hurriedly changed his words. This name is Mark's name. There is no name in the robot system. Now you can give it a name you like. Pepper's hand in Tony's early stage walked up to the pink robot customized for her, reached out and clicked on the heart in the middle of the pink portable charging case. Zerzer. Just like the big white design, the pink box cover is opened, and the robot wrapped in it starts to inflate and expand automatically. After a while, Mark specially customized it and gave Pepper a special limited edition personal health boost that perfectly appeared in front of the two. The pink polyvinyl alcohol fiber skin is covered with graphene film. In addition to being more solid and durable, it is more playful and cute than the gentleness of Dubai. At the same time, in order to better adapt to Pepper's aesthetics, Mark lowered its height in the design from 2 meters 60 meters to 1.70 meters, and the figure is more slender than Dubai. To be able to compress the reminder so much, Tony has also done a lot in it. The first is to replace the internal graphene battery with the arc reactor. It is definitely a smaller version than the reduced version of Tony's chest. It can support this customized model to work normally for 100 years or to fight in the guard mode for 1 hour. A holographic projector, first aid kits and daily medicine kits customized for women are also added inside, not to mention the various function chips designed by Mark. Thanks to the compression of the body shape, after being incorporated into the charging case, it is not only small in size, but also weighs only 1.4 kilograms, allowing Pepper to be carried around whether it is at home or at work, on travel or on business trips. King Kong Barbie Series No. 1 machine is for you. Hello host. I am your personal health assistant, life assistant and personal chef, and personal bodyguard. After the King Kong Barbie No. 1 machine introduced a series of functions Mark designed for it with a clear and beautiful customized lowly sound, Tony touched the non-existent sweat on his forehead and said, "You can go over and name it now. My program has set Ms. Pepper as my sole owner. According to the data in the database, please allow me to scan you and collect biometric information. After the initial authentication, you will be able to rename me." Okay. Pepper walked up to King Kong Barbie. Although he disliked the name very much, but looking at its exquisite appearance, lovely image, and the upcoming naming rights, Pepper said that these details are irrelevant. Start scanning. Scanning is complete. To record information, authentication is complete. Master, please name me. Nini. As soon as the robot's voice fell, Pepper had already blurted out the name she had thought of long ago, and she was afraid that it would not take half a second to hesitation. Tony on the side also felt very appropriate after hearing the name, and felt that this name had a lot of fate with him inexplicably. It seems that today's plan is very successful. The revision is completed. Today is July 17th, 2010. From now on, Nini will take care of the owner's daily life and protect the owner's life and health. Please take care of the owner. He held his little hand and bowed a standard 90 degrees. The heart of Pepper's bursting girl who saw this scene is almost melting. Nini, I will trouble you to take care of it in the future. Okay, master. If there are no other requirements, please comment on my service this time. Nini can go to sleep only after the master is satisfied. I'm very satisfied, Nini, go and rest. After getting a satisfactory evaluation, Nini moved back to the box step by step, and after deflated and folded, she turned into that stylish suitcase again. It is worth mentioning that because of the reduction in body size, Nini can take a more normal pace, but in order to save energy and prevent collisions, which are good things for human beings, in the daily low-power mode, its actions are still as slow as Dubai. How about it, do you like the gift I gave you? Tony strikes the iron while it's hot, asking the question from the bottom of his heart. Definitely like it, but this is a gift from Mark to me. What does it have to do with you? Pepper held Nini's charging case with love, and did not receive the love signal from Tony at all. Can't say that. I also provided some technical advice on Nini's design and manufacturing, and last night I used my father's majesty to urge Mark to work overtime and transform it to the perfect level now. This is definitely a gift from me. It's a gift. Mark outside the door got goosebumps when he heard this. If Tony's money offensive wasn't strong enough last night, he wouldn't let Tony talk nonsense inside. Okay, in that case, it's a gift you and Mark gave me together. Thank you, Tony. After that, Pepper put down the charging case he was holding in his arms and turned to give Tony a big hug, so that Tony, a veteran lover, had a little red face. Pepper, there is actually one thing I want to ask you to do me a favor today. Can you show me your hands before that? I don't quite understand this. Faced with Tony's strange request, Pepper was very puzzled. Had it not been for Tony in my heart, I would have regarded him as a pervert. Let me see. Fortunately, at a critical moment, Tony still remembers that the net learned the domineering CO routine last night. As soon as the deep and magnetic voice came out, Pepper finally shyly placed his palm on Tony's outstretched hand. Delicate, small. Tony said solemnly something that sounds very rascal. I need your help. After speaking, Tony's next actions really became more and more like a gangster. I saw him take off his t-shirt, revealing the arc reactor on his chest. OMG, is this your life-sustaining thing? Pepper asked incredulously. It used to be, but it's now an antique. As Tony took out a brand new arc reactor from the workbench, Pepper could see with the naked eye that this one is better than the old one in terms of material and craftsmanship. The one is more meticulous. This will sustain my life for some time to come. I want to replace this upgraded version, but now I have encountered some obstacles. Obstacle? What do you mean? Pepper understands that this obstacle is probably where she needs her own help, but she still needs to understand exactly what it is. It's not a big deal, it's just a small problem. Tony tapped the reactor on his chest with his fingers. There is an exposed wire under this device that touched the wall of the tank and caused a short circuit. Hearing this, Pepper looked at Tony in surprise. Tony waved his hand and explained, It's okay. Then how do you need me to help you? Hearing Pepper's words, Tony knew that the next thing should be settled, and Pepper was willing to help himself. He lay down on a chair, connected a few electrodes to his chest, and then under Pepper's panicked gaze, he pulled out the arc reactor on his chest. Don't worry, help me put this on the table over there, it's useless. Oh my God! Pepper took the replaced reactor cautiously with his hands, and carefully let it go on the side table. Now I want you to reach in and gently pull the wires out. Is this safe? Pepper asked worriedly. It should be okay. It's like a surgery game. Just don't let the wires touch the wall of the slot, otherwise it will make a beep sound. What a surgical game. The nervous Pepper couldn't understand Tony at the moment's humor. Well, don't worry about the game, it doesn't matter. Tap to take out the line. Are you ready? Okay. Pepper slowly stretched his hand to the edge of the trough wall, and then retracted his hand as if getting an electric shock. You know, I think I may not be able to handle this. Maybe you should ask the module to come and help. You. Tony looked into her eyes and said seriously. You can, you are the most qualified and trustworthy person I know, you will do a great job. Is my request too much? Because I really need your help. Tony's action is a combination of means, first with affectionate comfort, win a good impression, and then expose his weak side to get sympathy from the other party. Pepper nodded and agreed under Tony's set of the most likes on the internet. Okay, I'll help you. Pepper plucked up courage and reached out to Tony's chest again. Oh, there is pus in it. Pepper showed a disgusting expression on his face, his facial features almost wrinkled into a bun. I now know why you don't let Mark come to help, he will definitely refuse. No, it's not pus, it's the inorganic protoplasm released by the device, not my body, Tony said stiffly. And Mark stayed up late last night, he can't do such a delicate job. Mark, who has been watching the progress of the two outside the door, curled his lips contemptuously. Men's mouth, a lie. It's not right, Tony's mouth, a lie. It smells. Although Tony forced an explanation, Pepper couldn't help complaining about the unpleasant smell. Yeah, it's kind of. Tony responded awkwardly, and could only change the subject quickly. Copper wire, did you find the cut of copper wire? Touched it. Have you touched it? Okay, be careful not to touch the wall when you pull it out. Oh. The pain caused by the short circuit made Tony yell. I emphasized this to you before. Sorry. After the small accident just now, Pepper's face is now pale, and now he only dared to continue the mission with his eyes closed. It's okay, when you pull it out, be careful not to pull out the electromagnetic coil at the end. Looking at the electromagnetic coil that has been shaking in front of your eyes. Well, you have already pulled it out. Oh my God, I didn't expect. Pepper opened her eyes, seeing this scene even more panic, and anxiously, she wanted to put back what she pulled out. Don't put it back. Tony stopped her quickly. What should I do now? What's wrong with you? Seeing the change in Tony's physical condition, Pepper really wanted to cry. It's okay, but my heart is going to stop beating, because you pulled it out. What? Didn't you tell me it's safe? Don't worry, take this and change it quickly. Tony handed the new reactor to Pepper. Okay. Tony, it will be fine, right? Nothing will happen, I can handle it. Hope so. At the moment Pepper was completely upset because of nervousness, even though Tony's current acting skills were extremely poor, she could not tell. Daddy's trick is so wonderful, it makes Sister Pepper feel ashamed of him. With her character, she will definitely find a way to compensate Daddy in the future. It seems that I am going to change my name to Stepmother. Outside the door, Mark, who also studied the online pursuing book, saw Tony's tricks at a glance. Feeling that his father's operation has stabilized, Mark also quietly left the door and went back to his room. Be sure to connect that connector to the chassis, Tony reminded. Just listen to click, the wiring is completed. Roar, is this all right? Pepper breathed a sigh of relief. Is it so difficult? It's fun, okay, well done, Pepper. Are you okay? Definitely, I feel great, but you will never ever ask me to do such a thing again. I have no one but you. Mark is so serious about cleanliness that he definitely wouldn't help me. Sure enough, I knew it was pus. As he said, Pepper shook the liquid on his hand vigorously. Okay, don't care about that. Then how to deal with this? Pepper asked, picking up the reactor that had just been swapped out on the table. That? It doesn't matter if you destroy it, burn it. Don't you want to keep a memorial? Pepper, people put a lot of labels on me, but it doesn't include nostalgia. Well, nothing else, Mr. Stark. It's okay, Miss Pepper. Pepper left the underground garage with the arc reactor replaced by Tony in her hand. She lowered her head thoughtfully, as if she had already considered what to do with this thing. The future of air combat is manned or unmanned. What I want to say is that, in my experience, no unmanned air vehicle can exceed the instinctive response of the flight crew. The flight crew has been trained for a long time. The insight of Miao Mian, the ability to foresee some consequences through the in-depth observation of the situation through Miao Mian, or the judgment of a flight member. At the Air Force Base, Admiral Rhodes led a group of Air Force recruits to visit the hangar, and at the same time taught them his own experience as an ace pilot. Colonel, then, why can't we make a co-pilot who doesn't fly an airplane? Look at this man who fell from the sky, Mr. Tony Stark. Rod introduced Tony, who interrupted himself to the recruits. Speaking of manned and not manned, you have to listen to the experience of his misjudgment. It was the beginning of the spring, remember it clearly, the spring of 1987. The lady in your bed. Tony did not end his act of dismantling the platform. Continue to expose the old bottom of my friends. Tony, don't be like this. Rod hurriedly interrupted in embarrassment. What's her name? Is it Ivan? They will believe it, don't talk nonsense. Rod reminded again that he didn't want to lose face in front of the recruits. Okay, nice to meet you. Tony stopped his joke just right. Guys, let's take a stroll on your own first, we need to chat separately. Seeing the recruits were walking away, Rod patted Tony on the shoulder. I'm surprised, man. Why? I swear, I didn't expect to see you walking so fast. I can do more than just walk. Really? Rod was somewhat skeptical. Yes. Rod, I'm doing something big, and I'm here to tell you that I hope you can join. Rod nodded perfunctorily, but did not give a definite answer. You could have made these people really happy, because your accident, at the press conference was a big talk. It's not for the army, I'm not, it's different. Rod looked at Tony, who was a little stranger, with a puzzled expression. What's the matter? Are you a humanitarian now? I hope you can listen to my plan carefully first. Before Tony was finished, Rod interrupted him. No need. All you need now is to get your brain back to normal. I'm serious. Okay. Tony smiled perfunctorily. It's nice to meet you, Tony. After saying that, Rod turned and continued his unfinished work. Thank you. Tony was a little disappointed for his friend Rod's incomprehension, but this did not make him give up the plan in his mind. It seems that we still have to ask Mark for help. Mark, come out, I have something to look for you. Tony was quick to do things, and immediately called Mark's name as soon as he got home. Since he escaped from the hands of terrorists with the rudimentary Mark I, this plan has been raised in his heart. Now Tony is most concerned about the plan to be executed, except for the progress of Pepper and even the company. His future development has been thrown aside by him. Hearing his father's roar call, Mark also walked out of the room in his plush pajamas with sleepy eyes. What are you doing, father? I didn't go to bed until 4 o'clock last night. 4 o'clock? Why did you go last night? And now it's 12 o'clock noon. Based on the 8 hours of sleep per day for teenagers, you should also get up. Well, who made this house yours? Fortunately, I stayed up late last night to help you eliminate the shrapnel in your chest. It's really kind of unrequited. Huh? Hearing Mark's words, Tony immediately became interested. What he was interested in was not whether the shrapnel on his chest could be clear, because he knew the high-risk risks, and at this stage, under all controllable circumstances, he didn't want to risk it. What he was really interested in was the new stuff Mark made. You must know that Mark did not put much effort into medicine. Even when he was developing a personal health consultant, all the medical data was compiled with the assistance of Jarvis. Now that Mark says he has a way to know the shrapnel on his chest, then it must have found a direction in other technologies. What new stuff did you make? Show it to me quickly. Aren't you looking for something to do with me? Don't worry, this matter can't come, let's see what you have made. Compared with the unknown plan that has not produced results, Mark's new invention is more attractive to Tony. After all, Tony in his heart, he has recognized that Mark is a genius who surpasses himself, although it is impossible to say it. Okay, but it's impossible to take it out. You can follow me into the room, and I will show it to you. Mark turned and walked into the room again. Tony also followed closely, but as soon as he entered the door, he was attracted by the huge amounts of metal ball in front of him. Tungsten carbide? Tony recognized the alloy material used by the ball in front of him at a glance. Yes, the sword is not old. There is a full 400 pounds of tungsten carbide here. Come here, I'll show you something interesting. Mark beckoned Tony and led him to the test bench in the room. A complete set of chemical preparation instruments are placed on the experimental platform, which have been connected to the instruments in an orderly manner. They are also equipped with chemical reagents of various colors. Obviously, Mark's new discovery this time is related to chemistry. Mark picked up a test tube and poured the chemicals in it into the preparation instrument, doped with perchloric acid and a drop of cobalt pigment. Mark moved on his feet, adjusting various instruments along the countertop, adding reagents to it. A little bit of hydrogen peroxide, and then heated to a temperature of 500 Kelvin. After finishing Mark, he turned on the heating device, put the prepared liquid into the watering can, and Mark handed it to Tony. Try it, spray it on the tungsten carbide sphere. Tony turned to the bottle and put the reagent on the huge amounts of sphere as Mark said. The reagent sprayed out, forming a pink spray, and the whole metal ball quickly turned pink under its cover. It's done, is it great? Mark asked excitedly when he saw the experiment succeeded. Very pink? Tony was a little embarrassed. He didn't expect Ming Kanghui to make such an untechnical thing. The most exciting part is here. But apparently, Mark sold off before and didn't reveal the real results. In between, Mark stretched out his right index finger and poked lightly on this pink tungsten carbide sphere. Puff! The entire sphere quickly disintegrated, turning into a true pink dust, which filled Mark's room. Wow! Tony, whose whole body was dyed pink, couldn't help but exclaimed after seeing the real reagent. It's great. Chemical metal embrittlement. Just inject a few milliliters of the correspondingly formulated reagents into your chest, and all the shrapnel can be turned into powder, which is discharged by the body's metabolism. Unfortunately, I haven't found one that can be used by the human body. The non-toxic or low-toxic formula, otherwise you can become my first clinical trial subject. It's really an amazing invention. It seems that the metal formula I will use in the future must be kept secret from you, because the Steel Sun project I will discuss with you next requires a lot of metal. Steel Sun project? The moment he heard about Tony's plan, Mark was already full of black lines. Can I not participate? You really have to, Mark. Hey, listen to Mark, you have to at least give me a chance to explain the plan to you, don't you? Well, let's talk about it first. Mark accepted Tony's statement. In fact, he had already guessed what the plan Tony was talking about was the development plan for the Mark series of steel battle suits. However, Mark has some ideas about this and disagrees with Tony. Listen, this is a genius idea and plan. Do you know how I escaped from the terrorists? The army claimed that I was rescued by them, but in fact it was not the case. I relied on this thing. Speaking, Tony turned on the holographic projection device, and a bloated steel armor appeared in front of the two of them. This is the secret of my escape. A steel battle suit, driven by the arc reactor on my chest, can fight for 50 minutes under extreme conditions. With this rough work and the magic suit you gave me, I and Dr. Ethan, who was imprisoned together, successfully escaped from the clutches of the terrorists, and destroyed their stockpile of weapons. So this is your next plan, right? To develop a more refined and powerful armor. Mark followed Tony's words and directly stated his purpose. Yes. I want to develop a series of steel armor for my use. This project will not only ensure our safety, but more importantly, it will excite me. The powerful weapon system, flight system, communication system, combat system, weight, all integrated in such a small armor, it will be the highest creation of mechanical engineering and electronic engineering on Earth. Because the first armor I built in Afghanistan was Mark I named after you, I plan to make it into a Mark series, which is numbered in the order of research and development, also called Steel Sun Project. How about do you feel as excited as I am? Having said that, Tony put his hands on Mark's shoulders excitedly, two customized Mark's calm faces with gleaming eyes. It's okay. In fact, even if you don't tell me, I have plans to develop my own mecha project in the future, and since you can build the first-generation armor in the primitive environment of terrorists, I really want to nothing can help you. That's not the case, I really need your help, Mark. The various chips you prepared for Dubai are also applicable to the Mark series. I hope to add them to the battle suit as an unmanned module. Under development. And one person counts the short, two counts the length. The efficiency of our two geniuses working together will definitely be greater than that of working alone. Didn't you just say that you want to build your own mecha? You can also accumulate useful experience while helping me. You can even carry out your projects at the same time. We can have a competition to see who will achieve better results at that time. Hearing Tony's words, Mark, who was not very interested, also lit up his eyes. Mark Seeger is an otaku through and through, and he doesn't have many hobbies. In addition to conducting scientific research and reproducing all kinds of brain insights, my biggest hobby is to compete with my dad. Every time Mark can be a little bit ahead of Tony, Mark can be excited for a long time. Since you said that, then I agreed. But you have to change the name of this plan. The Steel Sun Project is terrible. Why not call it Iron Man Project? Seeing that Mark had agreed, and changing the name of the plan is not a big deal, Tony nodded and agreed readily. By the way, there is one more thing. Although my mecha design has not been completed yet, I can't show it to you. But since it is a contest, it must be fair. What I can tell you now is my mecha plan. It's called Shape-Shifting King Kong Project, and the plan is to make a giant mecha with a size of more than 5 meters. The specifics will be shown to you on the day when the results are displayed. I promise you will be pleasantly surprised. I'm still selling off with my father. Forget it, then I'll wait to see what surprises your shape-shifting King Kong can bring to me. Come with me to the garage, I can't wait to start working. Thinking of the R&D work that was about to begin, Tony rubbed his hands in excitement. Somehow you let me have breakfast first, no lunch, silly old man. Jarvis, are you there? When he arrived in the underground garage, Tony immediately called Jarvis for help. For you, sir, I will always be there. Good noon, Jarvis. Although it is noon now, Mark still plays a trick with Jarvis as usual, roar. Good noon, Master Mark. Jarvis, I want to create a new project document, labeled Mark II. Do you want to store the files in the Stark Industrial Central Database? No. Actually, I don't know who I can trust right now. Until I say otherwise, save everything on my private server first. Are you working on a secret project, sir? I just don't want this thing to fall into the wrong hands. Maybe it can do good in my hands. When he came to the test bench, Tony opened the holographic design of the Mark I battlesuit. Mark, come and take a look. What do you think of deleting it here? Tony zoomed in on the details of the battlesuit and asked Mark for his opinion. I think he can be reduced in size, because removing it directly may affect the balance of the battlesuit during the flight. It makes sense. The metal material has to be replaced, but I won't discuss this with you. I just saw your metal embrittlement. In fact, you only need to cover the surface of the battlesuit with a graphene coating to protect against the effects of metal embrittlement reagents, and it can also reduce the overall weight, while increasing the protective ability of the battlesuit. That's right, I know it's okay to find you with me. I also need to equip the graphene battery that you researched before as a backup energy source. There is also a super compulsory motivation, which can make me a strongman. Tony and Mark are just like you in the garage. When they agree, they progress quickly, and when they disagree, they will quarrel and try to persuade each other. But no matter what, it was Tony who made the decision in the end. After 2 hours of discussion, the first version of the design drawing was finally completed. At the moment, watched with holographic projection. The newly designed battle suit is no longer bloated and rough as Mark I, and the body shape is closer to normal. File size. The defensive power that cannot be discerned by the naked eye has also been greatly improved after using Mark's graphene nanomaterials. Okay, let's make it and see before improving it. You can't get results if you keep moving your mouth. Just name him Mark number 2. I won't help you with things that need to be done. You can cooperate with Xiaoben. Call me when the results come out. Mark's task temporarily came to an end. After discussing with Tony for nearly 2 hours, he was also a little restrained. With the inspiration in the brain, he just wants to go back to the room and make the design drawing of Shape-Shifting King Kong. Mark told Tony that the Shape-Shifting King Kong project was inspired by the movies he had seen in his previous life, and in this life he happened to have the ability to turn it into reality. Compared to Tony's steel battle suit, Mark prefers this huge amounts of automatic mecha. He didn't have the adventurous spirit like Tony. As an otaku, he could solve the danger by hiding behind the scenes. That would be great. I personally fight for life, and finally suffer a wound. Why bother? Lao Ma is destined to be unable to understand the values of his own father's personal heroism, but he will not oppose or persuade. People understand each other. Dabai. Back in the room, Mark also immediately called Dabai by Roar's name. Now Dabai's position in Mark is like Jarvis to Tony Stark. He has always envied his father's help from Jarvis and Xiao Ben. After completing Dabai's research and development, he has been working hard in this direction. During the time that Tony has been around, Mark has devoted all his time to Dabai's upgrade, except for the news related to Tony. Dabai's upgrade is the first to bear the brunt of the skin. Mark replaced it with a graphene nanofilm and polyvinyl alcohol fiber composite material. He also added a bionic material that can heal and repair itself, which greatly enhanced Dabai's defenses, power and mobility. In terms of other hardware, Dabai's original DLP micro projector was replaced with a more advanced holographic projector, and the hyperspectral lens was replaced with a holographic scanning lens. The skeleton was also replaced with a composite skeleton of graphene fiber and titanium alloy. The battery was also used after upgrading, a new type of battery of the same weight. Using the new graphene battery technology, can not only achieve high-speed fast charging within 10 seconds but also double the power. In addition, Mark also added many accessories to it, such as armor in combat mode, various tools in assistant mode, portable charging box for the arc reactor in sleep mode, and various function chip combinations. Dabai is upgrading from a personal health assistant to an all-round research assistant. And most importantly, Mark also upgraded Dabai's intelligence system. The original Dabai, as a weak artificial intelligence, can only complete tasks that have been programmed in the chip. Although it has a certain analysis capability, it does not reach the level of Jarvis. This time Mark's system core for Dabai can also be said to be the upgrade performed by its soul. Not only has it greatly improved Dabai's analysis and judgment ability, it has at least reached the level of strong artificial intelligence, and more importantly, Mark has added it. The newly developed Emotion Perception Engine. The Emotion Perception Engine is not reproduced by Mark through Xiaohong's memory, but is the result of independent research and development by Mark using his own learning and digesting knowledge over the years. The Emotion Perception Engine that Mark added this time is not a simple micro-expression recognition or psychological analysis. Its addition can make Dabai learn or truly feel various human emotions. Feelings of emotion, anger, sorrow, horror, and sorrow. By getting along with people around them and feeling their different emotions and emotions, it is possible to finally get real emotions. This is the power of the Emotion Perception Engine. At that time, Dabai will also evolve from an artificial intelligence into a real electronic life. This will also create the possibility for Mark to create silicon-based life groups in the next, shape-shifting King Kong project. Master. At this time, the fully charged Dabai has walked out of the charging box. Dabai is here for you. Dabai, open the horizontal cannon design I saved last time and call it up. I am now full of inspiration. Received, Master. Dabai received the order to turn on the holographic projector installed at the belly button and projected the design. Speaking of horizontal artillery, this shape-shifting King Kong, there may not be too many people who can remember it. After all, shape-shifting King Kong is a nose popcorn movie. There are a lot of Autobots, except for the main characters such as Bumblebee and Optimus Prime. If you are not a diehard fan, you may really not remember the appearance of horizontal cannon. The prototype of horizontal cannon is Chevrolet's concept car Corvette Stingray, with silver gray paint and streamlined body. Mark decided to temporarily abandon Bumblebee and Optimus Prime because of its handsome appearance. Horizontal cannon, build it out. And his father's garage also contains such a Corvette Stingray, which can be used as a reference for Mark. Help me remove the graphene battery chassis first. Tony looked at the projected model in front of him and said to Dabai. For the power source used by horizontal cannon, Mark originally wanted to put a large capacity graphene battery on it, but now seeing Tony's arc reactor, Mark decided to abandon the previous design. First of all, removing the increased space of the battery pack can leave more room for Mark's design. After all, to provide such a big guy for driving, shape-shifting and fighting, even with the ultra-high energy density of graphene batteries, it must be equipped with a different number. There are few battery packs. Secondly, Mark's way of using the arc reactor is not connected to his body like Tony does, and will not have any adverse effects on health. Finally, the cold nuclear fusion technology of the arc reactor is different from the battery. And his energy is not the addition of 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Every time the palladium raw material is doubled, the energy released by it wants to increase exponentially, which solves the problem of shape-shifting King Kong for a long time. And it's more slippery and very convenient. In the place where the battery pack is removed, 2 superforce motors are added to control the movement of the arm. Except for the tires and interior, all vehicle parts are replaced with graphene aerospace titanium alloys, and the tires are made of self-healing rubber. Based on the experience of discussing the Mark II battlesuit with Tony, Mark checked the first draft of the previous design and kept making deletions and modifications. However, there is another problem that has been plagued by Mark not being able to solve it, and that is the design of the shape-shifting organization. After equipped with various systems such as power system, weapon system, balance and stability system, the body has no space for the shape-shifting mechanism. But a shape-shifting King Kong, that cannot be shape-shifting, is it still shape-shifting King Kong? Finally, Mark's inspiration flashed, and he made a decision. Dabai, I deleted all the weapon systems and replaced them with a shape-shifting mechanism. I came up with a brilliant idea. When it comes to large mechas, how can I forget that? By the way, if you change to that, the power system can also be streamlined. To be clear, I have also deleted the electric engine in the form of a sports car. The energy core arc reactor is moved to the position of the engine. I have made a big change this time. The inspiration for Mark's mind this time comes from another large mecha genre, the classic IP of the driving school, Mobile Suit Gundam. Yes, if you used to indulge and love freedom when you were young and watched this island animation, you will surely guess that Mark used to act as a weapon system and as an auxiliary power in the form of a sports car as one of the cross-age brain ideas, NT Operation All-Round Attack Unit, referred to as floating artillery or floating body. The NT-operated omnidirectional attack unit is a wireless unmanned remote attack weapon. It was originally equipped with an independent propulsion engine, mono-eye optical camera system, beam cannon and control system, and because the brainwave transmission system is remotely controlled by psychosensory waves, therefore, it is completely free from the interference of electromagnetic signal shielding, and can be used for ultra-long-distance multiple attacks. In addition, according to different structural designs, it can be completely shape-shifted into a particle sword and energy shield for close combat. It can be said to be a panacea design. And with Mark's existing technology ability, the floating body can be reproduced. After all, if he can, do you think he doesn't want to reproduce the classic ADP field of Evangelion? But the concubines can't do it. The floating body is different. The independent propulsion engine is not difficult, and it can be powered by a separate arc reactor, which realizes its separate attack mode. The optical camera system is not to mention. In the holographic scanner under all-round detection, a mosquito could not escape Mark's eyes. The beam cannon can directly use the ready-made technology from the old man. The control system is Mark's strong point. The only brainwave transmission system that sounds very tall is actually a concept that has been very hot in the past, like brain-computer interface. What is even more coincidental is that Mark's head happens to have this technology reserve. In the memory information of Xiaohong he received at the beginning, a miniature magnetic axis robot developed by him is controlled by a brain-wave amplifier, and the technology is already very good. Mature. Moreover, there are a few cases where brain-wave system control is required. In most cases, the floating body will still be manipulated by the mecha's own intelligent AI. However, Mark had a little fantasizing about the cool scene where he was controlling several floating machines behind his back and annihilated all the enemies without using his hands. The saliva still flowed out. It can be said that no matter in which universe, human beings are all fleeing. But true incense is law on the face. After deciding on the design direction, Mark sorted out his ideas, and soon began a new round of design work. The ordinary car doors were replaced with a floating energy shield, and the tail box was converted to a floating body module, and at the same time it was in the form of a sports car. Horizontal cannon provided the power. Mark is just surging now, and the bright light in his mind keeps flashing, and the design drawing is quickly finalized. The body is almost like this. The shape design in the form of a sports car will do a holographic scanning and automatic modeling in the garage tomorrow. Sleep to sleep. Mark, who hadn't even changed his pajamas all day, fell on the bed and fell asleep. Past. Dabai, who had been assisting Mark with his work, walked over lightly and gently covered his little master with a quilt. "Good night, master," Dabai said softly, then turned and went back to his charging box to sleep. Early the next morning, Mark, who had not stayed up late, regained his vitality after getting enough rest. "Good morning, White." "Good morning, master." The aperture of the big white charging box lit up. Walking out of the room, Mark habitually shouted, "Good morning, Jarvis." "Good morning, Master Mark. What breakfast would you like to have today?" "I'll talk about it later for breakfast. I will get out of the garage and collect the car-shaped data I need, and then my design will be done. I wish you success, Master Mark." When he came to the garage, Mark saw Tony with a tired face and a dark eye around his eyes, working with Xiao Ben on the welding table. "Next one, go up. It's not boots, little dumb. Here, you understand? Don't move, fine. You are really useless, go down to the toes, let me." The cooperation of the two was going on in Tony's endless and discordant complaints. Mark didn't bother them. He took the holographic scanner and came to the front of the Chevrolet Corvette Stingray by himself and began to collect data. When Mark finished his work and passed Tony's side, Tony had already put on the leg flighter he had just made and was ready to experiment. "Hey, Daddy, I told you that it needs to be equipped with a balance stabilizer to ensure safety. You are too reckless." Seeing Tony not doing computer simulations directly, Mark couldn't help but remind him. Tony didn't care if he wasn't enough. "Don't worry, I'm ready for safety work. I'm a little stupid, and prepared to put out the fire. And I already had successful flight experience when I was in the Middle East. Although I didn't have enough motivation later, Tony was with me. Stark personally controls it without the aid of a balancing device. Whatever you do, Jarvis, please tell me, Master Mark. Help me wake up Dabai and let it come with the medical kit." "Okay, Master Mark." "Okay, Mark, you have to have a little confidence in me. Xiao Ben is ready to start shooting. Start measuring steps, 1/2 meter, right in the middle. Okay, start manual control, start slowly, and see if 10% of the propulsion energy can be increased. I think it's better for you to start slowly from 1%. Mark remembers Tony's famous scene in Iron Man 1. But now he is his son. "Mark reminds me again," Tony said. Tony shook his head and started the countdown directly. 3, 2, 1. Boom! Sure enough, Tony rolled his head and bumped into the ceiling. Boom! Then it was adjusted from the ceiling to the ground. Hearing the sound of the huge amounts of, Mark, who couldn't bear to look straight, lowered the palm of his hand in front of him. "Hey, keep saying Mark, the disadvantage is right in front of you." Mark shook his head and sighed. Tony was overconfident and asked for trouble. "By the way, Xiao Ben, send me a copy of the video from the camera. I want to be a ghost animal, hee. Daddy Smelly, you have another handle in my hands." "Well, where am I?" Tony, who woke up from a coma, looked at the big white face in front of him in a daze. "Sir, the impact you received just now due to an unknown reason caused a slight soft tissue contusion. I have treated your affected area. You are now in the garage of the villa at 10880 Port Marbury, postcode 90265. You're awake, Daddy? You've been lying down long enough, I've been eating lunch. Mark walked down from the living room upstairs, holding a Tony's favorite cheeseburger in his hand. Is it for me? Tony shook his head, and didn't feel any discomfort. It seemed that Dubai had completed the task perfectly again. $100, thank you. Mark showed the smile of a profiteer. After lunch, Tony and Mark entered the design and development workstation again. Tony did not continue manufacturing the other parts of the battlesuit this time, but added a balance stabilizer to the hand armor in the design drawing. Hey, you still have to listen to me in the end. Mark suddenly appeared and put on a smug expression. Tony definitely refused to admit defeat. Otherwise, how could he be of his father's majesty? What do you know? This is the result of my personal experimentation in the morning. It is 100,000 different from your lip service. Thousands of miles away. Mark shrugged and shook his head. Facing a rogue like Tony, he was also helpless. Moreover, Tony's own way of protecting his father's dignity, on the contrary, gave people a sense of a child's temper. By the way, Daddy, you have to do me a favor. My mech design has been completed, but there are some equipment and materials that you need to help me get through Stark Industries. Send a list to Pepper, and she will do it for you. Your kid really doesn't plan to let me see your blueprints. I can advise you on the staff. Hearing that Mark has finished the blueprints, Tony still felt it's hard to bear. After all, he knows his son's strength in technology. No. There are no surprises for you now. And I thought of a brilliant idea yesterday, but I can't let you plagiarize it. Tony couldn't do anything about it, didn't speak, rolled his eyes and continued to perfect his balance stabilizer. Beep. Beep. Well, Jarvis, who is here? I don't know how long he has been obsessed with his shape-shifting King Kong project, Mark, but he was interrupted by a rush of doorbells and withdrew from the research state. It's Miss Potts. Hearing Jarvis's answer, Mark turned his head and looked at Tony on the other side, and found that his father was still immersed in the research as before. Let Sister Pepper come down directly. Mr. Stark, I've been ringing the bell, don't you hear the sound of the intercom? Pepper came down the stairs with a box and a cup of coffee in his hand. Sorry, I'm too focused. What's the matter? Tony talked with Pepper, and at the same time fiddled with the balance stabilizer on his hand. Mr. Obadiah is waiting for you upstairs. Okay, I see, I'll go up right away. I thought you said you didn't make weapons anymore? Pepper wondered when he saw the prototype of the balance stabilizer on Tony's arm. This is not a weapon, it is just a flight stabilizer, there is no harm at all. Z-boom! The air wave from the stabilizer pushed Tony against the wall, and the tools in the garage were messed up. Tony demonstrated what he said for Pepper. Now it seems that the result is not so harmless. This is an accident. What's wrong, Uncle Obi? Isn't it too bad, right? Tony walked from the garage into the living room and asked Obadiah, who was playing with the piano. If you are just because I brought you pizza from New York, that doesn't mean that things are not bad. You're right, you really can't explain it. Tony picked up a piece of pizza and ate it. I was experimenting in the garage all day today. I'm really hungry now. Can I ask Mark to come out and eat together? Please, this is your home. But I have to tell you that at today's board meeting, the directors thought you had traumatic sequelae and passed a ban on it. What? Prohibition! Yes, they are going to kick you out. Why? Tony wiped the oil on his lips. Just because the stock price has fallen 40%. This happens from time to time. It's 56.5%. Pepper corrected. It doesn't matter, we have a controlling stake in the company. Tony, but the board also has their rights. They think you and your new R&D direction are not good for the company. It's always up to me to decide. It's my job, my company, forget it, I'm going to the workshop. Tony took the whole box of pizza and got up to leave. Don't do that, Tony, Tony! Listen to Tony, I'm trying to turn things around, but you have to show me something to convince them. I can help you find an engineer to draw some sketches. What, after all, the arc reactor is very complicated. This way I can use it to pass. No, absolutely no. Tony interrupted the opponent forcefully. I'll do this project, so it's decided. Don't think about other things, Obi. If they want to see something, they can take a good look. Mark's gift to Pepper, it's our secret weapon for entering the medical field. After returning the pizza he brought back, Tony walked away without looking back this time. Hey, don't you give Mark $2? Okay, thanks. Tony turned around and took 2 pizzas, and walked out of the garage again. Tony, do you mind if I go down and see what you are doing? Obadiah tried not to give up. He was not interested in any health consultant who saved the wound. What he wanted was a weapon of mass destruction. Good night, Uncle Obi, thank you for the pizza. Good evening, Sister Pepper. Seeing Mark, who was heading his head, Pepper stopped his work and looked at him. Good evening, what are you doing sneakily? I'm watching if the big beard is gone. Come out, he's gone. Is there anything you want to do with me? There is something. Mark nodded vigorously, apparently that everything went to the Palace of 3 Treasures. Is the acquisition of Stark Group's stock going well today? Don't worry. Now retail investors in the stock market can't wait to throw away their Stark stocks. They bought nearly 2% of the shares with the $400 million in your account today. This is to avoid people's eyes. As a result of the Goo's rebound and harvest, if the acquisition is done with all its strength, it may be possible to eat all the scattered stocks today. Hey, thanks Sister Pepper for helping me so hard. Thinking of the future value of these stocks, Mark couldn't help but laugh, and the corners of his mouth didn't consciously flow out of his mouth. Well, we have such a good relationship, you don't have to be polite with me. Did you be polite with you when I accepted Nini? 2 things, it's just a matter of effort. You help me, but you have to sacrifice your rest time. But since sister you have said so, I have one more blunt request. Let's talk, it's still squeezing. Pepper in a pale yellow dress reached out and rubbed Mark's fluffy hair. I am currently developing a new project and need to buy some equipment and materials through Stark Industries. Dad told me to find you. I have sent the list to Nini's server. Okay, I'll take it to the company's purchasing department to help you apply for it tomorrow. Is there anything else? I can go home from get off work without me. No, good night, Sister Pepper. Good night.